I just watched this video by The Truth Never Told, and it's a channel focused on currencies, basically, and silver. He's promoting silver and he's selling silver. He thinks that's truth. So I had questioned him on it before, and I got no response. So apparently he's too busy or doesn't deal with any philosophical questions. But the U.S. is desperate by Dmitry Orlov. Just came out today on Information Clearinghouse. There's a lot of anti-U.S., anti-imperialistic stuff on here. It's leftist, but it's not all leftist. I study it for whatever reason. Take a look at this here. Shin-bait manhandled French Prime Minister beat, I can't see the other word there, and anyhow, basically talking about the Netanyahu publicity, political maneuver that he did. Makes you wonder about how Mossad was connected. I just had a Mossad threat on me, and I basically flipped them the bird. Not afraid. Bring it on. I have nothing against Israel, however, I don't take sides. I'm for the grand neutrality when it comes to the Middle East and the broader area. You can focus on a certain region and try to come to understand the specifics that are going on. It's important to know all of the localized components. However, seeing that means nothing unless you can see how the whole bigger picture is for the entire globe. We're talking globally what's going on. Now, I'm going to bring up two other areas here that are hot right now, that are current events. The Yemen crisis. If you don't know where it is, it's in the Arabian Peninsula. It's on the side that's next to Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, yes, right over there, Mogadishu. But they're separated by an ocean, and what you have in Yemen is a very interesting tribal group. That's their ethnicity. They are some of the Arabic tribes. They have some other influences from Africa, obviously, maybe Madagascar, which is the island just south of there. But their way of life, their culture, their society, and their military is continuing to be a problem for United States, NATO, EU, the larger powers in the world, because Yemen is very difficult to be conquered. I mean, you could say in some ways it's more difficult if you have to make a linear ranking. Afghanistan would be easier to conquer and put into chaos. That's how you conquer places. You don't. The only way that these powers, the larger powers, are able to take the other countries and take advantage of them and put power over them is by putting it into chaos. They don't take them, invade them, and have them as a colony, and everybody joins the empire. It really doesn't work that way, because it's impossible. This is an empire that's showing so many failures since 1945 that it's stopped being funny. Well, anything can be funny, but Yemen, let's just be serious about it. There are multiple factions going on here, and I'm not going to get into the specifics, because maybe I don't know, or maybe just I'm letting you realize that that's not the important part of seeing this localized area. Let's go to the next one so we can start to see the bigger picture. Let's go to Ukraine. What we have here is an article from a blog spot, actually, Fort Russ blog spot, and this one's in Mexico. And I don't know much about the blog, but they are promoted here as having a good article. Slaughter along the entire front, January 19th. That's yesterday. The fighting is still very hot. Ukraine hasn't been solved at all in the past year. I can say the same thing about Syria. You still have a lot of fresh reports coming out of recent carnage. You have reports of the past couple weeks in Syria, especially, I want to bring to your attention that huge civilian casualties have been suspected. I mean, the United States is not admitting, but they are open to have it proven to them. So, what that exactly means, maybe they are in a slump right now in that way that they have to get out of Afghanistan, and yet there's this talk that we can extend it, they're saying. And you have McCain, the senator, running around the Middle East, having talks with his cronies and his business people, his military industrial complex that he has. You got to look at the committees that he is with and who lobbies with him, who paid to have him continue with his incumbency, his continual lifelong senatorship. You have to understand that the presidency has been limited to 8 years, and that's so these senators can run hog wild. You have to realize attention needs to be paid to these senators. They have no right to go on 10 years, decades of what they're doing. Look at Harry Reid now out of Nevada. Apparently he's out of there and he has some karmic mishap or something. Fell on his face. Who knows what happened? Maybe somebody finally beat him up. Who knows? Slaughter in Ukraine and McCain running around making more slaughter in that part of the Middle East between Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Cyprus, the Eastern Mediterranean, obviously in some kind of coordination with both Israel and Saudi Arabia simultaneously. Look at Saudi Arabia now. Last week they just had a beheading, which was very outrageous. The beheading is just the woman, supposedly they're accusing her of killing her daughter, beating her daughter, something with sodomy. But the woman, they say that the woman during her court proceeding, the trial, it's not really a trial, it's just, they do it publicly, so they beheaded her publicly. So it's so, what is the hypocrisy? What is the major malfunction of the United States? And nobody answers. It's a huge question. How do you have Saudi Arabia as a major ally? Oh, forgot. Bush regime. Forgot. How could we forget? With Obama? Oh, it's just a continuation of the same. But look, Saudi Arabia started a relationship which may or may not have gone through some major changes since about 1944, 1945, when President Roosevelt, FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, had the meeting with the Saudi king. I think it was Faisal Saud, from the House of Saud. So Saudi Arabia came up at that time with good relations, and I think it's always been the case. But what are we looking at here as I'm talking? We are seeing a map of the digital war that is going on. We have a digital war. So my subject matter was just to show you some of the current stuff that's going on in this middle of January 2015. And something should come up here. We have a lot of hotspots, and if we don't look back on this time, like historically, that World War III has started slowly, the gradual prelude to global war, then I will be surprised. But I feel like this prelude could take quite a few more years. It's almost like, in some ways, like the late 1930s right now. It's looking like that. And at the same time, it's looking like the late 20s in some ways. If you look at let's go back to that visual. It's looking like 1929 in some ways. Just read this article along while I get it in place. 1929, I say, in comparison or alongside with all of this military conflict, Ukraine, Syria, Libya, totally in disarray. It's going to complete civil war. You have Afghanistan, you have Yemen, everything ringing around that area from between Europe over to India. But you also have reports of problems in Far East Asia along the Pacific area. So there's a lot of tension going on there. So alongside all of this kind of military stuff happening, and with the oil war, as I said about 2 months ago, oil war is on. This OPEC price war is war. It's as bad as embargo. It's as effective as embargo. It's as major as that. They are trying to crush 3 or 4 of the other nations that will not go along with the superpower plans. That's what they're trying to do. So alongside all of this, we have to look at the other side of things. It's not just about open military conflict with the hardware on the ground. It's just as much about the economic front. It's just as much about the money, because when the money is being used the way it is, that's taken as a weapon. So that's another way to fight a war, with money as a weapon. Look at the stock market. Look at the Dow Jones. Look at the index. Everything's been going up, but if you compare it, and I've seen comparisons on graphs that actually show a huge similarities, a huge parallel to 1929. People were even making, I think, knee-jerk reactions to say that the crash would have been sometime in early 2014. So it has to be reassessed. I think that they got the graphs wrong, because when I compared them and I looked and I shifted it myself with the overlay comparison, I found that we're looking like we're about 7 to 8 months away. So I'm actually seeing something of a stock crash by the end of this year in global terms, if not just the United States, but in global terms. And the reason why I say there's a lot of indications that we could be getting to an atmosphere for